I teased my friend because she didn't remember my kid, and it ruined her and mine marriage. So, my wife and I have a 5-year-old son. Our friend group mostly consists of couples with kids since we're nearing our 40s, so a lot of our gatherings now include whole families, kids included. This can mean a good number of adults and kids. One person in our group, Natalie, a fake name, used to be my college roommate. She's married and has kids, and we sometimes meet up with her and her husband in group settings, but rarely on our own. Natalie also tends to run late often. All of this is relevant to the story. As our son is an only child, we sometimes worry he might not learn to share or get along well with other kids. So, while I love spending time with him, I'll sometimes give him a little nudge to engage with other kids when we're at public playgrounds, the beach, or the pool. When I buy him things like a water pistol or an RC car, I often buy extras. At the playground, if another kid shows interest in the toys, I say, "Oh, you want to play with us?" and hand them one of the toys. This works out great, and I generally have a good rapport with the neighborhood parents. This is also relevant. One day, about a year back, my wife and I planned to take our kid to the pool. I packed my big bag of pool toys, and Natalie texted me. Her husband was away that day, and she was looking for something to do with her kids. I talked to my wife and told Natalie we were going to our local pool and that she was welcome to join us, but we planned to head there early, so she could join whenever. We arrived early and snagged a good spot by the shallow end. I grabbed some water pistols, and my son and I started playing World Domination. Basically, I'm trying to take over the world and can only be stopped by water pistols. It's a whole bit my son loves. Soon, another kid from my son's kindergarten class arrived with his mom, and I invited him to join. We know the family, and my wife and his mom are friendly, so the kids often play together. While the kids were blasting each other with water pistols, my wife and the kids' mom decided to go for a swim. They asked if I was okay watching the kids, and I said sure. I was mostly just relaxing by the pool, calling out things like, "Oh no, my plans for world domination ruined." When necessary, parenting can be like that. Then Natalie and her kids arrived. She was really happy to see us, and I handed out toys to her kids. Everything was going well. Then my son's friend came over asking for another toy, and I handed it to him. Natalie said, "Oh my God, so cute. He looks just like you." I laughed and told her, "Actually, that's not my kid." To be fair, the kid does look a bit like me, so it was a funny moment. When my wife and the kid's mom returned, I shared the story, and we all had a good laugh. Fast forward to a few months ago, when I hadn't seen Natalie in a while. We were at a group gathering, and it was a good time. When it was time to go, I was making a few trips to the car, kids' toys, clothes, Tupperware with leftovers, etc. I called over to Natalie's husband, saying, "Hey, can you call my wife and kid over? Just make sure it's actually my kid and not some random kid who kind of looks like me." I thought it was a funny callback. He seemed confused and a bit annoyed, asking what I was talking about. When I told him the pool story, he didn't laugh, and neither did Natalie. Things felt awkward, so I said goodbye, grabbed my wife and kid, and left. Later, I texted Natalie to see if everything was okay, but she didn't reply. I tried again a few days later with no response. I figured maybe she was just mad about a poorly received joke, but I decided to let it go. A few days ago, I went to a friend's engagement party. Natalie was there, which was unexpected. She was livid to see me and immediately started calling me out in front of everyone. Because of my joke, her husband had been furious. As I later gathered from mutual friends, Natalie had previously commented about someone else's kid looking like a person who wasn't the father. That comment ended up causing family drama because in that case, the man was actually cheating and the child was his. Her husband was angry because he thought she should have known better than to comment on kids' resemblances again, and he believed I was mocking him for his family drama with my story. He also thought my pool story was just a cover-up for her when I realized I'd messed up, which wasn't true. I hadn't known about that whole incident. Still, her husband didn't believe her, and they ended up separating. Natalie called me an asshole, saying I ruined her marriage. I apologized profusely, explaining that I didn't know and would have kept quiet if I'd realized. She told me I was making excuses. The entire situation became a scene. I apologized again and quickly left after congratulating the couple. Later, I found out that everyone at the party was talking about it, and now the engaged couple is mad at me too. Natalie is even angrier because now everyone knows about her marriage issues. She's unfriended and unfollowed me on everything. Some friends say I couldn't have known better, and the joke was harmless. Others think it was in poor taste to throw her under the bus, saying I'm at fault. Natalie's best friend thinks I did know about her family issues and am now trying to cover up being cruel. Some friends have cut contact with me, while others believe Natalie's marriage was already in trouble. I feel terrible for making the joke and obviously wouldn't have done it if I'd known. I like Natalie and didn't mean to hurt her. My wife, on the other hand, thinks the joke was hilarious. She actually finds it funnier that it somehow led to a breakup because, in her words, WTF. She loves reading crazy Reddit stories, so she convinced me to post this. At least she's on my side, which is nice. I'm updating you because the last few hours have been a lot. Turns out when I wrote my post, I left out one critical piece of context. I thought I was just a regular person living a normal life. Turns out I'm Chaz, a side character on the worst episode of Gossip Girl ever written. After posting yesterday, reading replies, and thinking it over, I decided to reach out to Natalie one final time. Some of you thought I shouldn't and said these were, in fact, not my monkeys. Others helped me realize that Natalie might be in a tough situation with her husband and his family, possibly even being gaslit. Now, just to clarify, while we're not as close as we used to be, we were very close once. Natalie helped me pick out a spot and even let me borrow her car for my first date with the woman who eventually became my wife. She was a significant part of my support system during some very rough times. Despite everything, I still felt like I cared about her and wanted to work things out. This is no longer the case. See, from my perspective, I thought we were good friends. Then, when she met her husband, we naturally drifted apart, and then this thing happened out of nowhere. This was not what it looked like from her perspective. How do I know? Well, buckle up because this is absolutely unhinged. So, last night before bed, I sent her a long, thoughtful message. I apologized for my part in ruining her marriage, acknowledged that she was going through a tough time, and left the door open if she ever wanted to talk it out. I showed this to my wife, and she was practically giddy, telling me there was no way this wouldn't blow up in my face and that I should have just cut my losses like many of you suggested. Natalie shows up at my house at around 7 a.m. unannounced. I ask what the hell is going on, and she says she really needs to talk to me. I call my wife to the door, explain what's happening, and she sends me off with Natalie because she's sure this is bound to end badly. And apparently, she's here for it, knowing it's my own fault at this point. So, as I said, from my perspective, we were friends who drifted apart. From her perspective, for the last 15 years, she's been playing some weird game of 4D chess. Or 2 different games of 4D chess? Apparently, she had feelings for me back in college and was trying to nice girl her way into a relationship with me by always being there when I needed support, assuming I'd eventually come around. You'd think that my getting married or her getting married would have changed things, but it didn't, at least not in the way you'd expect. Apparently, her husband knew about her feelings, which is why he always kept me at a distance. We never drifted apart. He explicitly asked her not to meet with me anymore outside of big social gatherings. And that day at the pool, yeah, that was her sticking it to him because he was supposedly away cheating on her or something. He didn't like her hanging around me while she was scantily clad. He wasn't just upset about the joke. He was upset because he thought I was having an affair with his wife and rubbing it in his face. Make no sense? I know, but it gets worse. That incident at the wedding? Well, she didn't plan that at least. I told our friends getting married that I wasn't coming. She asked and confirmed this. She wasn't expecting to see me, and they told her I wouldn't be there. But when I showed up, she decided to exploit the moment. She planned to cause a huge scene with me, so she could tell her estranged husband and our friends that I had ambushed her because she had broken off our affair. Our affair? Apparently, we had an affair. What affair, you ask? I did too. Apparently, the story some people got was that Natalie and I had an affair. It ended, and I began stalking her. Her husband left her because he found out. Some people who believed her just thought that was what happened and wanted nothing to do with me. So why did her husband actually leave? Well, as some of you called it, he was cheating on her a bunch and was overall not a nice person. She never actually cheated on him, but used me to pretend that she had without my knowledge. After the joke at the pool, which may have indeed been in poor taste, they had a huge fight, and he left the house. As for her issues with his family, something about a guy sleeping with his cousin's wife, or some other nonsense. Anyway, she tells me all this insanity and tops it off by saying that my message really moved her and that we can still be friends. The reason she showed up at 7 a.m.? She realized from my message that I'm the only one who truly cares about her, and that everyone else in her life is fake. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but this started to sound like some really manipulative crap to me, and now I'm thinking back on a lot of our previous interactions, which also seem shady. I'm not a confrontational person. I was willing to accept that I messed up. Maybe some of you were right. The joke was in poor taste, and I was an idiot for making it, thinking he'd understand the context. But this? Absolutely not. I was done. I told her to go back to her husband. Leave her husband. Keep whatever friends she wants. I'm done. I can forgive a lot, but she'd basically cut me off for 15 years, only for me to find out she'd been building this weird, one-sided narrative in her head. I'm shocked by how much of a one-way street it turned out to be. Maybe I played a role in that too. Maybe I was self-centered and didn't consider her feelings or her signals. I don't know, and at this point I don't think it matters. She lied to me so much. She lied to so many people so much. I just don't care anymore. There's nothing left in this friendship to fix. And the worst part? I just gave you this huge update, and I genuinely don't know how much of it is true. Maybe she was completely honest with me. Maybe she lied about everything, and we're still playing 4D chess. Who knows? I certainly don't. And that, more than anything, is why this friendship is over, because even if I could forgive everything, I could never really trust her. So that's that. There will probably be no more updates, because this was supposed to be a lighthearted post, and it turned into a total mess. I'm just so tired and so sad. I'm sorry if this wasn't as readable or coherent as my previous post. This just happened, and I'm exhausted. My wife has been very supportive, though I assume I'm due some well-earned "I told you so"s. She knows there was no affair, and certainly no stalking, and I think most of my friends do too. I may reach out to some of them, because maybe they were told even worse things, but I'm just done with this. And now I'm going to spend what's left of this weekend with my family and try to put this mess behind me. Thank you all for reading and for your advice. Before I give the update, I should clarify a few things brought up in the comments. First, when I said we were roommates, I didn't mean we shared a literal room. We lived off campus in an apartment with another friend, and each had our own room. Second, to clarify, and more on this later, the only person Natalie told about an affair was her husband, now ex. Everyone else only heard about it after the engagement party outburst. Third, my house already has cameras and security. My dogs and she never really got along, so I don't think she's going to try anything anyhow. Guess they were the first to know what was up. Okay, on to the actual update. While I don't have the conversation with her recorded, I have a text from a later time where she confirmed she made it up. I didn't block her because my wife suggested it might be better to let her incriminate herself and have it documented. Once she admitted to making the affair up, I stopped responding. She sent increasingly angrier texts, but nothing yesterday, so hopefully that's done. She said some nasty things about my wife, and I considered responding, but my wife laughed it off and said that's just how sore losers are, so I didn't engage further. I also have screenshots from her ex-husband, where Natalie talks about the affair she supposedly had with me. How do I have those, you ask? Realizing how much Natalie lied to me, it hit me that almost everything I knew about her ex-husband, let's call him Ben, came indirectly from her. So, I took a chance and texted him to meet up. We had a long talk, and he might be lying, but from what he said, he never cheated on her, though she often accused him. The innocent mistake she made with his family? Turns out she spread rumors that the kid was his, thinking his cousin's wife was too friendly with him. This caused huge backlash and was one of the reasons Ben wanted to leave. The incident with me was the final straw. Now thinking back, the mistake she made with me might not have been so innocent, and she might have tried to start some drama if my wife or the kid's mom had reacted differently. So anyway, Ben is fighting for full custody, which could get ugly. I don't know the legal specifics, but it sounds rough. He's been a part of our friend group for a while, and having talked to him compared to Natalie, I tend to believe him. We talked for a long time, and he seems like a good guy, though I've been wrong before, and I offered him some support because, well, divorcing Natalie sounds like a nightmare. He's worried, and I get it. I offered what support I could, and will probably keep doing so. Regarding my friends, I took some of your advice, though I didn't do a group text. Instead, I shared a summary and some choice screenshots with most of my friends. This opened up a lot of conversations, and a ton of tea was spilled, with people realizing how much drama over the years had misunderstandings linked to Natalie. Most people were shocked, especially those who hadn't heard her side, while others were more understanding. Natalie's closest friend blocked me, so she won't get any of this, but I doubt she'd be swayed anyway. The consensus among my friends is that we should probably cut ties with Natalie altogether. Her house in our neighborhood actually belongs to Ben, and she's moved out, so I likely won't see her much going forward. I don't want to demonize her. I don't think she was maliciously trying to ruin lives. I believe she's a very troubled person, and I still hope she finds peace, better friends, healthy relationships, and a good therapist. But this is no longer my circus, and she is not my monkey. So, I hope she finds all that far, far away from me. As for my wife, this part's a bit tricky. See, she confessed that she and Ben were actually having an affair this whole time, so we're getting a divorce. Just kidding, of course. My wife has been awesome throughout and still is. Now that things are mostly resolved, she's allowed to tease me about it, which she has a lot. I may take a while to live this down, but otherwise, we're doing well. I might reconsider some friendships with those who were quick to believe the worst, but for the most part, things seem to have settled down. And that's about it. Sorry if it wasn't the crazy showdown some of you expected. I think this chapter is finally behind me, and I appreciate everyone's support and advice throughout this.